Back outside the school, the tension around that double dungeon gate was thick enough to cut with a knife. The girl from the surveillance team called out, "Everyone from the surveillance team, please gather over here." Chief Wu Jinchul quickly took stock of the situation. 7 elite association hunters assembled on very short notice. They're skilled, but I know they won't be enough if something goes wrong with Mr. Sung, he thought, his expression hardening. This isn't about providing backup. It's about preparing for the worst possible outcome. As they edged closer to the gate, which pulsed with a disturbing energy, Wu Jinchul felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. Immediately after, an overwhelming surge of mana washed over them, pouring out from the portal. "What is this energy?" he murmured, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "Is anyone else sensing this?" The air grew heavy, almost suffocating, charged with a power far beyond anything he'd ever experienced. "Where is this chilling aura originating from?" he whispered, a hand pressed to his chest. "I can feel a terrifying storm of mana brewing." Wu turned sharply to his aide. "Are there any major guilds nearby on standby?" "Yes, sir. The Hunters Guild is ready to mobilize for a raid," the aide confirmed promptly. "What about their S-rank hunters?" Wu pressed, needing confirmation. "Mr. Choi Jong-In and Ms. Cha Hae-In have both agreed to participate if needed." A faint, almost desperate hint of a smile touched Wu Jinchul's lips. "Submit an emergency cooperation request to the Hunters Guild. We need their support immediately." His eyes stayed fixed on the pulsating gate, narrowed in concern. "What in the world are you involved in?" Sung Jin-Woo, back inside the Kartinon temple, the architect, having shed the last remnants of its statue disguise, lunged forward. There was no technique, just pure, overwhelming force. The floor beneath Jin-Woo violently erupted as the architect slammed down, missing him by mere inches. Jin-Woo reacted in an instant, but the architect moved with blinding speed, its shadowy form a whirlwind of devastating attacks. Jin-Woo managed to block a heavy blow, the impact jarring his arms and forcing him back. He gritted his teeth, pushing off the floor to meet the architect's relentless assault head-on. Fists met shadow, shattering the stone floor with every collision. The architect stumbled back momentarily, its hood shifting to reveal more of the pale, cracked face hidden beneath. Its single purple eye widened slightly, and a dry, unsettling sound, like rustling leaves, escaped it. Laughter. "Impressive, truly impressive," the architect declared, its voice echoing in the vast chamber. "You're exceeding my expectations." It seemed genuinely surprised, almost pleased, by the intensity of Jin-Woo's defense. Jin-Woo ducked under a wide, sweeping strike and countered with a rapid flurry of powerful punches aimed at the architect's torso. Each blow landed with significant force, staggering the shadowy figure. "Who knew I would find such enjoyment fighting against a human being?" the architect mused aloud. "Not once in my long existence did I imagine a human could pose such a challenge. How very amusing." Jin-Woo spat out a mouthful of blood, his gaze burning with unwavering defiance. "He summoned me here right after I hit level 101. He must have assumed I'd be no match for him. But I can definitely do this." "Hey, architect," Jin-Woo called out, his voice rough but clear. "I still have a lot of questions for you. Why did you create the system? Why did you choose me as its player? And what is happening to this world right now?" The architect charged toward Jin-Woo again. "Do you wish to know?" A chilling grin spread across its features. "I see. Perhaps you fear you won't get all the answers if you manage to defeat me first." Jin-Woo suddenly pushed off, creating distance between them. "Close combat puts me at a disadvantage." He reached out, activating his upgraded ruler's authority. Skill: Commander's authority has been activated. He attempted to pull the architect towards him with the invisible force, but the hooded figure stood firm, resisting with an equal and opposite power. "Are you planning to attack from a distance?" the architect mocked. "It's futile." Jin-Woo felt the invisible connection strain and then break. "He can use the same type of skill as me. That means my ranged abilities are useless against him too. It ultimately doesn't matter whether you defeat me or not, the architect stated calmly, raising its hands. Spectral weapons, long swords, spears, axes, blades forged from shimmering energy, materialized in the air around it, wielded by unseen extensions of its power. The answers you will receive are already predetermined. It selected a massive, ornately designed axe from the floating arsenal. They have been predetermined since the very moment I designed everything. How were you able to design all of this? Jin-Woo demanded, tightening his grip on his daggers, the Demon King's short swords radiating a potent dark energy. And how were you able to grant me powers like these? The architect paused, its purple eye seeming to bore into Jin-Woo's very soul. I did not choose you, it stated flatly. The revelation hit Jin-Woo with the force of a physical blow. In fact, I was against the proposal. It continued, I am simply the architect and moderator of the system designed to cultivate players. My design is flawless. Time left, 4 minutes, 10 seconds. The timer flashed urgently in Jin-Woo's vision. His eyes narrowed in determination. I don't have much time. I have to face him head-on. The architect leaped forward, crossing the distance in an instant. I must use my full power for the remaining time. Its multiple spectral weapons descended, becoming a vortex of lethal steel. Sparks flew brilliantly as Jin-Woo's daggers met the furious onslaught. The sheer speed of the exchange was dizzying, a chaotic dance of life and death. But then, something shifted within Jin-Woo. His heartbeat seemed to resonate through the chamber. Thump, thump, what's happening? All of my senses are becoming sharper. I can do this. The world around him seemed to slow down. He could perceive everything with unnatural clarity. The precise arc of the descending longsword, the exact line of the spear's thrust, the incoming angle of the blade, the trajectory of the falling axe, the crushing weight of the hammer. I can sense all of his movements. He moved with the fluidity of water, weaving through the deadly storm of attacks, his daggers finding openings, deflecting potentially fatal blows, and scoring sharp counterhits. His body reacted instinctively, moving before his mind could fully process the information, guided by heightened perception and honed battle sense. The architect began to falter. Its attacks, which had been overwhelming just moments before, were now being parried and countered with increasing effectiveness. I am using my full strength. The architect's voice carried a note of disbelief. How is he able to block all of my attacks and retaliate so effectively? And he's becoming even faster. A well-aimed blow sent the architect staggering back, a noticeable crack appearing on its hooded face. Ugh! A flicker of something resembling pain registered in its eye. This may be an artificial body, but I cannot believe he is capable of inflicting pain upon me. Jin-Woo pressed his advantage, his attacks becoming relentless. The architect stumbled again, landing heavily on the fractured stone floor. It looked down at its hand, then back at Jin-Woo, its eye wide with dawning realization. I see, it whispered, the sound barely audible. Could this be the reason you were chosen? It is only a small fraction, but it is undeniably mixed within you. Suddenly, its composed demeanor shattered completely, replaced by an incandescent rage. You are merely a human, it shrieked, its voice cracking with uncontrolled fury. How dare you possess such a thing? Time left, 3 minutes, 45 seconds, as the architect struggled to rise. The remaining stone statues lining the chamber walls stirred once more, their red eyes glowing ominously. They lumbered forward, weapons raised, forming a final, desperate line of defense. The massive shield-bearing statue from Jin-Woo's first harrowing visit began to stomp towards him. Time left, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Jin-Woo didn't even spare them a glance. He raised his hand, unleashing the commander's authority once more. A powerful wave of pure force slammed into the advancing statues, blasting them backward, shattering several against the far walls. Time left, 3 minutes, 15 seconds. He dashed forward, ignoring the scattered, immobile constructs. The shield-bearer raised its massive bulwark, attempting the same defensive posture as before. Time left, 3 minutes, 2 seconds. Jin-Woo didn't slow his charge, his fist cocked back. It's the same one. From back then, he leaped into the air, putting his full weight and momentum behind the blow. Time left, 2 minutes, 40 seconds. The stone shield didn't just block the attack. It exploded inward as Jin-Woo smashed straight through the statue's chest, reducing it instantly to rubble. He landed smoothly amidst the debris, turning to face the architect, who had managed to regain its feet, the remaining spectral weapons swirling defensively around it. Time left, 2 minutes, 21 seconds. Jin-Woo charged again, his daggers becoming a blur, shattering the lingering energy weapons with contemptuous ease. A final, decisive strike connected solidly. Time left, 2 minutes, 14 seconds. The architect crumpled to the ground, its form flickering erratically, the borrowed body rapidly disintegrating like ash. It looked up at Jin-Woo from the floor, the purple light in its eye fading quickly. "I have lost," it stated, its voice devoid of anger now, replaced by a strange, quiet finality. "The test is over." Time left, 2 minutes, 11 seconds. Jin-Woo stood there, catching his breath amidst the absolute chaos of shattered stone. The countdown clock finally gone from his sight. He'd won. It was brutal, hard-fought, but the victory was his. Still, even with the architect down, the big questions lingered, swirling like dust motes in the aftermath. As if sensing his thoughts, the architect, barely holding its form together, managed a weak gesture with a crumbling hand. "The answer is within you. Within me." Jin-Woo frowned, the confusion clear on his face. What did that even mean? Right on cue, a familiar chime echoed through the chamber, mirroring the architect's cryptic last words. A system prompt popped up. "The data stored in your memory will be retrieved. Accept. Yes/no." The choice was right there. The answers he desperately needed about the system's origin, why he was chosen, the truth about the darkness swallowing the world. Apparently, they were already inside him, tucked away by the very being he just took down. "The data stored in my memory," he murmured, a mix of apprehension and burning curiosity churning inside him. He met the architect's fading purple gaze. "Yes," Jin-Woo said, his voice firm, unwavering. "I accept. The data has been successfully retrieved." Instantly, a flash of light so blinding it felt absolute consumed the Hae-In temple. It washed over Jin-Woo, dissolving everything: the stone walls, the broken statues, the defeated architect, into pure white nothingness. His consciousness felt like it detached, set adrift in a swirling ocean of darkness that slowly began to sharpen, resolving into a vision on an impossible cosmic scale. He found himself floating, an unseen, unheard observer, high above a desolate, alien landscape. Everything was bathed in this eerie, purple twilight. Stretching out below was a battlefield unlike anything imaginable, teeming with creatures he recognized from countless dungeon raids, endless hordes of high orcs, goblins, giants, nagas, and every kind of monstrous beast you could think of, their collective presence radiating a suffocating wave of raw, primal power. "Whoa," Jin-Woo breathed, his voice echoing strangely in the void. "Look at all those magic beasts." Their glowing red eyes were all fixed upwards, staring intently at something beyond his line of sight. Jin-Woo turned his own gaze upward. What are they looking at? The sheer scale of it was overwhelming, the endless gates spitting out monsters, the sheer untamed power gathered in one place. This definitely isn't Earth, Jin-Woo realized, taking in the swirling purple sky and the sea of creatures stretching to the horizon. If an army like this ever broke out of the gates all at once, humanity wouldn't stand a snowball's chance. But they weren't looking at Earth or humans. Their attention was locked onto something else entirely. Then, with a sound like reality itself cracking apart, the fabric of that purple sky shattered. From the crystalline fissures poured an opposing force, legions upon legions of soldiers clad in gleaming silver armor, their backs adorned with majestic, powerful white wings. They descended like a host of avenging angels, their spears and swords radiating a brilliant, holy light. War erupted in an instant. The silver soldiers crashed into the monstrous horde below. The sounds were horrific, tearing flesh, shattering bone. The shriek of steel on steel filled the void. The alien ground quickly became stained crimson as the silver soldiers, incredibly powerful and disciplined, carved through the ranks of the magic beasts. Their initial assault was devastatingly effective, like a divine wave of annihilation rolling across the battlefield. They seemed unstoppable. But just as the Silver Legion pressed their advantage, cutting deeper into the monster ranks, a figure emerged from the heart of the carnage. This newcomer was cloaked in shadows so deep they seemed to drink the ambient purple light, radiating an aura of death and absolute power that completely dwarfed even the luminous winged warriors descending from above. The ground itself seemed to tremble with each step this figure took. It stopped amidst the fallen beasts, raised a single, gauntlet hand, and uttered one word, a word that resonated deep within Jin-Woo's very soul. Arise! A chilling, vibrant purple energy swept across the entire battlefield like a shockwave. The corpses of the slain magic beasts began to stir. Shadows coalesced around them, knitting together torn flesh, replacing severed limbs with constructs made of pure darkness. Their eyes snapped open, no longer red, but now glowing with the same malevolent purple light as their new master. That's the Monarch's domain and shadow extraction. Jin-Woo watched, stunned into recognition. The fallen beasts rose, not as they were before, but transformed stronger, faster. Their lifeblood now dark and thick, imbued with an unfathomable, necromantic strength. An army literally born from death itself. Then does that mean he's the Monarch of Shadows? The figure now appeared mounted on a steed made of swirling darkness, clad head to toe in imposing black armor, the absolute embodiment of the shadow power Jin-Woo himself now wielded. Immortality, an army that could never truly be diminished. The newly risen shadow soldiers immediately turned on their former killers. Jin-Woo watched, completely aghast. He can summon so many shadow soldiers. My own army is nothing compared to this. The fallen beasts, now empowered by Death's embrace, surged forward like a black tide, crashing against the glittering ranks of the silver soldiers. The momentum of the battle flipped instantly. The silver soldiers, who had seemed invincible just moments before, now faced an enemy that simply refused to stay dead, led by a monarch whose power seemed to bend the rules of reality itself. The Shadow Monarch personally joined the fray, riding his nightmare steed like a blur of lethal grace, his shadow blades reaping a terrifying toll. He moved with a familiar, terrifying power, crushing enemies with invisible force. The commander's authority. Ruler's authority. Wherever the monarch rode, a trail of utter destruction followed. Victory for the forces of shadow seemed not just possible, but inevitable. That is, until they showed up. Back outside the double dungeon gate, the air was still heavy, thick with that almost palpable mana pressure leaking out. Jong-In, the ultimate soldier himself, and Hae-In stood shoulder to shoulder with Woo Jin-Chul, flanked by the elite Hunters Guild raid team they'd brought. Are you absolutely sure about this? Choi asked Woo, his gaze locked on the pulsating blue portal, skepticism etched on his face. I'm sensing a tremendous amount of mana leaking from there. You said Sung Jin-Woo definitely went inside. Yes, I'm sure of it, Woo confirmed, his expression tight with worry. Hae-In frowned, clearly troubled. This mana? It doesn't feel like Sung Jin-Woo's. Then whose power is this? She felt a sense of obligation towards Jin-Woo after he'd helped her. A double dungeon. Huh? I suppose I finally get to see if those rumors were true. Woo Jin-Chul recalled his earlier conversation. Sung Jin-Woo told me himself he wasn't the one who cleared the original double dungeon. So then, why would he come back here? This can't possibly be just a coincidence. With a low, grating groan, the massive stone doors leading deeper into the dungeon swung open before them. Jong-In gave a sharp gesture, and the assembled team moved forward, cautiously entering the vast, ruined chamber beyond. The place was a wreck. Shattered statues littered the floor, silent testament to the brutal test that had occurred. At the far end of the chamber stood the infamous, colossal statue of God, its hooded face utterly impassive, radiating an ancient, terrifying aura. What the hell? Jong-In stammered, a mix of awe and raw terror in his voice. What is this place? Woo murmured, taking in the chilling scene. So, the stories were true. The statue of God and all those stone sculptures. They actually exist. Suddenly, a weak, rasping voice echoed from the floor near the empty throne at the far end. Oh, what's this now? The hunters instantly snapped their attention towards the sound, finding only the discarded cloak and pile of dust that remained of the architect. I don't recall extending an invitation to humans. This is another unexpected variable. Shock rippled through the experienced raid team. Did I just hear that right? One muttered. Or did that pile of dust just talk? Another whispered incredulously. It knows human language? The architect's voice, though weak, rose slightly, filled with a chilling authority that defied its crumbling state. The dust seemed to stir faintly. Silence. How dare you disturb the king during his slumber? The hunters instinctively followed the direction implied by the voice's gesture, and then they saw him. Standing silently near the raised dais, bathed in a faint but distinct blue glow, was Sung Jin-Woo. It's Sung Jin-Woo, a hunter whispered, breaking the stunned silence. What's he doing just standing there? Before anyone could react or even process the bizarre scene, the pile of dust representing the architect stirred violently. In a flash, an unseen force lashed out, striking down one of the hunter's guild members instantly, sending him to his maker before he could even scream. You, strong human, the architect hissed, pure malice dripping from its fading voice. Will make a fine first offering to the king. Picking up with Jin-Woo's vision, he's watching this insane standoff. Before the Shadow Monarch stands one absolute unit of a beast, radiating immense power. Both the monarch and this new challenger take their stances amidst their respective armies. You could feel it in the air, total chaos was about to pop off. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon room, silence slammed down for just a heartbeat, broken only by the low, grinding groan of stone. Heal him, Choi Jong-In barked out, pointing sharply towards a hunter who'd caught some shrapnel during the architect's initial wild attack. Use everything you've got. Get the wounded to the back, now. Another hunter yelled. Here they come. Just like that, the stone soldiers charged. Weapons raised high. Their movements were heavy, deliberate, but totally relentless. The dust pile that was the architect seemed to smirk. A chilling voice echoed from it. Anyone who manages to stay alive by the time all of my puppets finally collapse will be granted the supreme honor of witnessing the king's birth. Buki. Everyone, watch out! Choi roared as the absolutely colossal statue of God, looming like a nightmare at the far end of the chamber, began to stir. Its massive stone eyes flickered, charging up those infamous, devastating eye beams. Choi didn't hesitate, reacting instantly by conjuring a huge fireball between his hands. Use this chance. Attack the other stone statues while it's distracted, he commanded, launching the blazing projectile straight at the statue of God's face. Wham! It slammed home, momentarily blinding the giant statue and stopping its attack cold amidst a shower of sparks and billowing smoke. Chief Wu Jinchul launched himself towards the nearest statue, landing a solid punch. To his shock, it barely left a scratch. Whoa, this thing is way sturdier than I thought, he realized, a flicker of panic creeping onto his face. Heads up, these guys have high resistance to physical attacks. So be careful, Choi warned, gritting his teeth as he saw even his powerful magic struggling against them. Wait, it can withstand this much magic? Don't tell me they have resistance to spells too? Frustration started boiling over. Guildmaster Choi, none of my taunt skills are working on them, another hunter shouted desperately. My basic psychokinetic spells aren't doing jack either. They won't even budge. Choi could feel the options dwindling fast. Damn it! Are we all out of options here? His gaze shot towards Jin-Woo, who was still standing completely motionless near the throne, looking totally zoned out. Is he hypnotized or something? Choi thought frantically. Then we have no choice. We have to wake Jin-Woo up. He hurled one of his fireballs directly at Jin-Woo. Whatever's going on, this is the only way to snap him out of it right now. But before the fireball could even get close, the architect intervened, stopping it dead with some unseen force. The dust cloud surged furiously towards Choi. How dare you attempt to disturb the king in his slumber? But before the architect could reach Choi, the other hunters, including Chief Woo, jumped in, blocking its path. Woo turned, shouting urgently to Hae-In, "Ms. Cha, we'll handle things here. Please, go wake Jin-Woo up." "Got it," Hae-In replied instantly, dashing towards Jin-Woo without a second thought. At that very exact moment, the memory playback happening inside Jin-Woo's mind hit its absolute climax. He saw the original Shadow Monarch's army, regenerating endlessly, seemingly drawing power from what felt like a bottomless pit full of mana. He finally understood the real dynamics of that ancient war. The demon clans and all those beasts were slaughtering the shadow soldiers only because their true enemies were the silver soldiers descending from the sky. Wait, so the Monarch of Shadows wasn't actually allied with the magic beasts? Or maybe, was there some kind of internal beef? The answer arrived with horrifying, brutal clarity. He watched as the Monarch's own soldiers suddenly turned, impaling their leader with countless weapons from behind. Betrayal. The Monarch confronted one of the betrayers, staggering forward even as his shadowy form began to dissolve. We had a chance to end this endless war today," the Monarch rasped, utter disbelief coloring his fading voice. "So why did you betray me?" He reached out, grabbing the treacherous soldier's helm, demanding an answer, the metal groaning under his grip. "I asked you a question. Why did you betray me?" But there was no reply, only the cold, hard fact of betrayal. The Monarch finally fell, overwhelmed, his body crumbling into nothingness. As his life force faded completely, his eyes, filled with that dying purple light, seemed to lock directly onto Jin-Woo's across the void of time and memory. Those eyes! Where have I seen those eyes before? Suddenly, the image of Baron, the Demon King from the Demon Castle dungeon, flashed violently in his mind. Baron? The Demon King? What the heck is Baron doing here? Then, something shifted. The perspective changed entirely. Jin-Woo was no longer just watching. He was suddenly standing there, looking out through the Monarch's eyes. He was the Shadow Monarch. Huh? Since when? Why didn't I realize until now? The rhythmic thumping sound intensified. The unmistakable beat of the Black Heart, now resting securely within the chest of this ancient being called Ashborn, and now inherited by Jin-Woo himself. Ashborn, or maybe Jin-Woo now, turned, darkness swirling around him like a cloak, only to be met by the sight of the rulers, the winged silver soldiers, descending from above. Their wings cast long, imposing shadows as they surrounded him, their gazes heavy with judgment. And with that, the playback of the retrieved data has ended.